All right, today we're diving into a massive investment trend that's been happening right under our noses. It's something the world's wealthiest people are getting into, and it directly affects a resource that, well, none of us can live without.
I mean, think about it for a second. What's the one thing you absolutely, positively cannot live without? It's not your phone, it's not your car, it's not even your house. It's the most basic, fundamental building block of life itself. And get this. While most of us were watching the stock market or maybe dabbling in crypto, some of the smartest, richest investors on the planet were quietly buying up as much of this one essential asset as they could get their hands on. And let's be clear, this isn't just some safe investment for a rainy day. For many of them, this is a massive strategic bet. Think The Big Short, but instead of betting against the housing market, they're betting on a future crisis. That's it. Simple, essential, and now it's becoming privately owned. The focus of this multi-billion-dollar gold rush is water. So you have to ask, why now? Why are all these investors suddenly rushing in? It's because they can see what's coming. They are positioning themselves for an emergency that, honestly, is already starting to unfold across the entire globe. Let's just look at the raw numbers for a second, because they are absolutely staggering. Right now, 2.1 times billion people lack access to safe drinking water. Let that sink in. That's more than 1 in 4 people on Earth. And the problem is getting worse fast. Projections show that by 2030, which is right around the corner, the world's demand for fresh water is going to be 40% higher than the reliable supply. That huge gap, that's what investors are betting on. What's even crazier is how inefficient we are with the water we do have. The world loses 324 billion cubic meters of fresh water every single year. That's enough to supply 280 million people for an entire year. Just gone, wasted. So here's the bottom line. This is not some far-off problem for our grandkids to figure out. It's estimated that half of the entire global population could be living in water-scarce areas as early as this year. The crisis is here. And you know what happens when there's scarcity, right? There's opportunity. So who exactly is cashing in on this emergency? A whole new class of ultra-wealthy investors is emerging, the new water barons. Now, this quote really gets to the heart of their strategy. It's from Michael Burry, the same guy who famously predicted the 2008 housing crash. He figured out you don't have to literally own the river. You just have to own the farmland that comes with the rights to that river. It's a brilliant backdoor play to control water. And this is pretty much their playbook. You've got Burry buying up land to grow super thirsty crops like almonds, which is basically a way of exporting water that's embedded in food. You've got Bill Gates, who's become the biggest private owner of farmland in America, not for the dirt, but for the priceless water rights attached to it. And then you have the investment giants like Blackstone, and they're buying up the infrastructure, pipes, treatment plants, the whole delivery system. The sheer scale of this is mind-boggling. This year, nearly a third of major global investors have already put more than $500 million each into the water sector. And look at the trend. Almost all of them, 96%, plan to pour even more money in next year. The smart money is flooding in. This timeline really shows you how quickly this whole thing has accelerated. A decade ago, this was a niche move by guys like Burry. Then, in 2020, a huge shift happened. Water started trading on the stock market, just like oil or gold. And just this year, the trading volume for water futures doubled in a single quarter. Water has officially been turned into a financial asset. So this brings us to the very heart of the issue. What happens when you put a price tag on something that is essential for human life? We're moving away from just the financial side of things now and into the huge ethical questions this all raises. It's really important to know that, according to international law, the United Nations is perfectly clear on this. Access to safe, clean drinking water is a fundamental human right. It is not a privilege. It is a precondition for life. Now, the people who argued for water markets said they'd make distribution fair and efficient. The idea was that water would flow to where it was most needed. But the reality in places like Chile and Australia, where they've actually tried this, has been the exact opposite. It's led to growing inequality and conflict over a resource that was once shared by everyone. And these aren't just theories. You can see real examples all over the world. Big agribusinesses in Latin America are outbidding small farmers for water rights, putting entire communities under enormous stress. And huge corporations like Fiji Water and Coca-Cola have been facing accusations for decades of privatizing and polluting local water, often leaving the people who live there with even less access than before. This quote really captures the modern investor mindset perfectly. They see water as the ultimate asset in our digital age, a resource with a finite supply and demand that's just going through the roof. They're betting on an explosive rise in value. But here's the critical difference, and this is the central danger. The whole promise of something like Bitcoin was decentralization, power to the many. The reality of this new water economy is the complete opposite. It's extreme centralization of control, in the hands of a very small group over the one resource that no one can live without. So we're left with this fundamental question. As billionaires and investment funds continue to buy up the world's most precious resource, we have to decide, is water just another commodity to be bought and sold for profit like oil and gold? Or is it a fundamental human right that must be protected for everyone, regardless of their ability to pay? The answer to that question is going to define the world we all live in.